All right, Philip, we are recording. And I was about to make the worst mistake ever and just start babbling before we hit record. And we were already talking about interesting stuff. So thanks for coming on.
You may as well make the most out of it. Get this recorded, all the waffle, so other people can listen in. Thanks very much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I've been following your stuff for a while, and just amped to talk about all the things we're going to talk about. Let's not give too many spoilers.
No, exactly. All right. Well, Lauren, fire away then. Lead us off. What's your question?
What is your favorite Bitcoin fiction book?
Oh, my favorite Bitcoin fiction book. There aren't that many Bitcoin fiction books. There are a lot of maybe amateur authors who published. A lot of it was about, who is Satoshi Nakamoto, or sort of crypto wars, and not exactly about Bitcoin. I would probably give a shout out to Avi Bora's book 24, which to my mind is the first sort of well put together Bitcoin fiction book, and it's a really cool concept that it has a seed phrase hidden within it, and so that seed phrase becomes a story of itself. Who cracked the code, and what did they do with the sats, and how did they do it? How long did it take them? So great idea from him, and I believe he's working on the second one. Maybe he'll just keep doubling 48 and 90 and so on all the way up to 21 million. I don't know.
Right. Have you read any fiction books, Lauren?
Bitcoin fiction books?
Yeah.
No. I don't think I've read any Bitcoin books.
Well, you've had Toma read his story to you.
The baby Bitcoin book?
Yeah. Good night, Bitcoin, yeah. Which you were a part of reading as well, because you did a line each, right? Yeah. I'm trying to think of the others. Well, Bill Aronson, he's written a book called The Cathedral, which is he slips Bitcoin in there. Well, we have 21 Futures, which you should probably shill and
of
talk
course
about that.
Of course, it was the world's first Bitcoin fiction anthology. So that came out in December 23. We have more news coming about that. I can't share everything, but it should be available on audiobook soon. And we'll be sharing more news about that. But we had 21. In fact, I think it was 22, maybe even 23 stories, which featured Bitcoin prominently. It's not like the stories are about Bitcoin, but they're set in universes where interesting things happen based on a new monetary system or to do with Bitcoin.
I think one of the earliest, actually, if I've got it behind me here, yes, self-banked. Look at this. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen it. Is it a graphic novel? It looks like
self-banked. He put this together. It's called 21ism, and it's a comic book. You see, a comic book about Bitcoin, and he takes you on the journey, comic book style. And this was released, I want to say 2020, 2021. Doesn't actually say anywhere. But he did a great book, great effort. And then, can you see a date there, Lauren? No. But it's, 2020. So originally posted in Citadel21.com, which was being run by Hodlernaut back in those days. And then 21ism, a group of other Bitcoiners, I was very humbled to be a small part of that project. They put together an incredible website where each month there'd be different blocks. They would have an interview with a writer, they'd have an interview with a podcaster, a so-called thought leader, and whatever else, or an artist, musician. And it was a really good project, and they ran that for about 2 years. But like everything, I guess you run out of time in the end, and it wasn't funded, it wasn't making any money. So yeah, unfortunately, it's no longer around. But anyone could go and find it. And then you also have Dim Zayan. He did his Honey Badger comic series as well. And I think
I'm learning a lot about graphic novels here because I haven't read any myself or got any. But yeah, I know there's a lot of great like Bitcoin artists who are doing work in that field as
yeah,
well.
there's this one as well, the Time Chain Codex, which is by Fractal
Yeah,
Encrypt, and that's brilliant. Beautiful.
that's a good point. I recently wrote a blog about sort of the rise of Bitcoin fiction and how we're coming to a bit of an inflection point now where it's gone mainstream. You know, there was like a best-selling US author who wrote a thriller about Bitcoin last year. That's not one I included in the blog though, so I should.
Yep, and we've got
Network
Nicholas now.
consensus. Yeah,
Yeah, this is brilliant. So I'm with you, mate. I felt it the last year to 18 months. Obviously, we mentioned Avi as well. And sorry, any Bitcoin fiction authors that I've not shouted out, because you are few and far between, but there should be more. And there is more coming, and they're fun. And like I said to Nicholas, like reading his book, it was kind of like a Jack Reacher style, kind of Jason Bourne style kind of adventure, which you know, a lot of people like reading that. So this is the perfect.
well, I think we're moving from sort of Bitcoin enthusiasts who would buy these books, people who are super knowledgeable on the topic, into this can be entertainment for the masses. You know, like especially crypto, because I'm not really a fan of the word crypto, but most people that gets their brain sort of fizzing with excitement. Or think of all the technological things that could happen there. I mean, you think of like Neil Stephenson, Cryptonomicon. That's a pretty pre-Bitcoin, but like a crypto classic cryptography. And there's so much more to come. Like you're saying, we've got Seyfedin's book coming up very, very soon. We've got Lynn Auden writing a sci-fi book, and I'm sure money and Bitcoin will be playing a part in that, and more too. More and more coming out. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think we're
And
moving into
to
that.
use, I think, a phrase that as Toma explained when after writing his book, he's like, how can like this story lends itself to fiction, like the mysterious founder who disappears and changes. Like you can go in so many different directions as a creative and have so much fun with it. And yeah, I just hope that we do see this shift and people picking up the pen and going for it.
Yeah, I think for me the interesting side of it is the what ifs. Yet the story of like a mysterious genius, rich founder is certainly attractive. But in a way, if we were to know who Satoshi was, that would destroy Bitcoin, in my opinion. So that for me is a story which is interesting to tell. I believe there are like films being made, and that's definitely going to be more prevalent in a way to catch attention of many sort of the general public. But for me, the what ifs are the interesting thing because you can go super technical, talk about space travel and hash horizons and mining on different planets and things like that. Or you could tell a simple story of a refugee crossing a border with 12 words in their head. There are just so many interesting possibilities with the technology, with the philosophy, with a new monetary system. That's where the great stories are for me, and that's hard segue to 21 Futures. That's why I sort of dreamed that project up, and we're now on to our second book.
Right. Well, Lauren, say goodbye. Go get writing a fiction book for teenagers.
Well, thank you for having me, and have a good podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, and go do your homework. Write a Bitcoin book.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too.
I'm looking for my copy of 21 Futures behind me, but I can't see it. It's not jumping out at me, so I won't waste time pulling it off the shelf. But do you want to give everybody kind of what was the background to 21 Futures? How did it come to be? What part did you play, and where do you hope to take it next?
How it came about was I was orange pilled through a mutual acquaintance, Nico, at Consensus Network. I was in early 22. I was working with Nico on some writing because in a previous incarnation, I was a writing coach and helping people with their personal writing projects. So I worked with Nico and found myself reading lots of books. He said, "Oh, just read this book. Just check this out." And I loved the attitude of a publisher who was just sort of sending me all these books like e-copies and who doesn't. But there's something different about this. So yeah, I fell down the rabbit hole, and I've read maybe not as many Bitcoin books as you, Daniel, but quite a few. And kind of selfishly, I mean, I'm an author of short fiction mostly. And selfishly, I wanted to edit an anthology. I thought, oh, this could be a great opportunity. And I was already in talks with another publisher about a different kind of anthology. And yeah, at the time, I was just excited by Bitcoin and interested by where it was going. So I dreamed up this idea of let's pitch this book to Nico at Consensus. I can edit it and run it. And yeah, he was immediately on board and excited by it. And, I'm always grateful to him because he's put so much time and effort and, resource behind the project. So yeah, we put a call out in early 2023 and started getting, mostly Bitcoiners. Some were well-known, authors and writers themselves. We had Knut Svanholm, we had Jonny Appelberg, submitting work to that first anthology. And the book came out in late 23. And really, the idea was to have a book, to have an anthology, and then, maybe we could do another one. But last year, when I got more serious about Bitcoin, I went to the Madeira conference, met a bunch of people, started working as a writer in the space. I thought, there's so much more to this than just a book, because we were meeting. I was meeting people like Satillionaire, who's a Oscar-winning filmmaker, and he's putting together trailers for the book, and we thought, hey, this could be these could be animations, movies. This could be such a bigger concept than just books. So from that point, 21 Futures became more of like a universe. And yeah, but fairly recently, we launched a website. We're publishing short story submissions online. We're publishing reviews and opinion pieces. And as I say, now we're looking to audiobooks and more. So really, 21 Futures turned from a bit of a pipe dream of having an anthology of my own into like a group project for all of not just Bitcoin, but the freedom space. I think it's important to mention that, we started as a Bitcoin book, but now we're moving into Austrian economics, sci-finance, just self-sovereignty, more of the freedom space, libertarian fiction. And we're open to submissions as well. So that's the long, rambling answer for how it came about and where we are.
Finance, I love it. That I've not heard that before, but brilliant play on words. And I just recently, shout out to Max Hillebrand, I've just recently read the book. He's been shilling for a long time. Lodgings of a Wayfaring Man or Wayfaring Men. Wow, like
Max, I think, is responsible for like many of the key people in Bitcoin reading the right books. He's so great at recommending books, and I read that on his recommendation too. And actually, just to jump in on that, Max has a story and was a sponsor of our most recent book. So highly recommend checking that out. And Paul Rosenberg, the writer of Wayfaring Men, also read our book and gave us a nice quote. So there's a nice like full circle thing there.
Did he really? He's read 21 Futures.
Yeah. We sent him an advance copy of Financial Fallout for him to read, and seemed right up his alley. So that's cool.
Very interesting, because I wondered whatever happened to him as an author after. So for those people that are not up to speed, haven't read Wayfaring Men, it's pretty hard to get a copy. I was lucky enough that I was at the Bristol meetup and run by Self-Banked, who did this 21ism comic. And I met up with a good friend there, Simon, who runs the UK Bitcoin events, and he keeps everybody up to date with what's going on in the UK with Bitcoin meetups, conferences, you name it. He's the guy. He's the go-to guy. And he had a little stack of Wayfaring Men. I can't find it. He's like, no, you can't find it. Okay, I'm paying you in sats right now. Couldn't wait to rip into it. And I can't remember what year. It was written in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And he's talking about a bunch of entrepreneurs that were building a marketplace together and a parallel system and using electronic cash to offer their goods and services to basically sidestep from one rail onto another. Obviously, never having heard of Bitcoin, because it was well before Bitcoin was even released, but he must have been down like the rabbit holes of Xiaomi and Cash, eCash. Maybe he was even part of the mailing list. I don't know. Do you have any insights? I've lost your audio. Did you suddenly mute for some reason? Very strange.
Hello, can you hear me now? Maybe I just cut out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I believe Max is friends with Paul and recorded Wayfaring Men as an audio book, which I don't know where you can get hold of that. Maybe on YouTube, but I may also have news about Wayfaring Men and becoming easier to get hold of, but not sure I can share that news yet.
Uh-huh.
What was I going to say? Yeah, it was written, I think it was actually published in 2008, even if it was written a little before that, but it's about the 1990s, as you said.
Right.
And Max was on a podcast with me recently, and he was sharing that it is actually based on real life events of a set of entrepreneurs who tried to set this up in Costa Rica, a free marketplace in the late 1990s. And the book obviously is fiction, and they have this tussle with the FBI and lots of like thrilling sort of chases and events that are happening. I think in reality, it was a bit too early to set that kind of thing up because the technology and the infrastructure wasn't there. But it's true that it's an amazing foresight of what has now happened. But funnily enough, it's not spreading like wildfire as it did in the Wayfaring Men book.
But I would you categorize that as sci-finance? Is that the kind of book that would fall in there?
It's a good question. I'm not sure if sci-finance has a exact definition. I mean, I always think of sci-fi as futuristic, and that book is actually is a history. It's loosely based on real events. It's also, I think, Paul Rosenberg is mostly a non-fiction writer, so it's not structured in a typical novel way where we have one character who sort of walks out the door and goes on a journey and wins a day and comes home. There's lots of interesting like appendixes of like newsletters and speeches and technical documents and things. So I wouldn't describe it as a typical novel, but definitely a book worth reading for anyone interested in history of where we are now.
Yeah.
Money in Bitcoin and taxes, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So just to square something off, you use the word anthology. For anybody that doesn't understand what an anthology is, could you just describe that?
Yeah, an anthology is a collection of stories from different authors. So when we have a short fiction book, if all these stories come from the same author, we call it a collection. You'd usually find about between 10 and 30 stories in a novel length book. And an anthology is just that, different authors. There are a lot of anthologies which have a theme. Some writing organizations run competitions. Anthologies usually work best if there's a theme, right? Because people who love teen werewolf romances, or like heavy hitting Western sort of dramas set in Montana or something, well, you could have an anthology based on that. A good way to think about it is there are a lot of TV shows that are anthologies now. Black Mirror is an example. You still there, Daniel? You frozen?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, your picture's frozen on there. I was just checking your.
Yeah, we keep getting weird little glitches like that, but yeah, keep going because I can still hear you.
Yeah, no problem. So we have lots of TV shows that are anthologies, like Black Mirror, and even series like True Detective or Fargo. That they set in a particular universe which changes each season. Possibly my favorite one I like to compare with 21 Futures is Love, Death and Robots. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a Netflix series which is produced by David Fincher, and they're all short animations about different futures. It's a kind of sci-fi short animation show. They're usually between like 5 and 15 minutes, the episodes. If you haven't watched it, it's great. There's so many brilliant like what if situations, and the films all have a different feel, and different writers, different directors. But they're sort of together under that theme of robots play an important part, and what's going to happen in these dystopian futures. So that's one that I like to compare a little bit to 21 Futures.
So you mentioned you were doing some work for Nico, and that's how you started falling down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. So what was the fiat day job then, up until finding that work and pivoting a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, my backstory is kind of initially leaving real fiat land in 2011 because I got sick and tired of lying and selling advertising in London, which is what I was doing.
Okay, so
And
what was that? That was like straight out of uni, go and find a job in the big smoke, copywriting, that kind of thing?
yeah, pretty much. I was actually working more in research, so in a marketing department of a media owner who sold billboards to agencies and big clients. It was a great job. I learned a lot, but I think even back then, I thought, financially, this is an impossibility. It's never going to get me where I want to be. And I felt like I was running on the hamster wheel of just, go faster and faster and do more and more for not enough gain. And yeah, everything they say about advertising is true. The kind of people that work in advertising, the kind of stereotypes and sentiments, everyone patting themselves on the back and sniffing their own farts, really. So I kind of getting high on their own supply. So I left London in 2011 and ran away to travel the world, and being lucky enough to be born a native English speaker. That's what my trade was for a little while, selling English teaching. And I lived in Argentina and Mexico, different parts of Spain. And that was also, as I was traveling, that was the time that I started writing. and ended up publishing my first story, I think, in 2016. But as I said, I write short stories, not just about Bitcoin. And published a book in 2018. So the writing and the teaching, really the teaching obviously was my fiat day job, and writing is, very tough to make a living from. And that evolved into helping non-native speakers, or as I call them, multilingual writers, with their own writing. So I ran coaching groups and sessions for Polish copywriters or Brazilian content writers who use English. Most of the people in the world who are writing in English and even speaking in English do not come from the United States or the UK or Australia. And many of them have an extremely high level of proficient English, but still suffer the consequences of being labeled, you're not a native speaker, so your work is worth less. So that became my mission, probably from sort of 2018, 2019 until fairly recently. As I said, last year is when I sort of flipped the switch and transitioned to work as a freelance writer myself for Bitcoin companies and Bitcoin leaders. That's the game now. So yeah, it's a constantly evolving profession and life, and there are things happening every day that I find myself starting a new project or meeting people in the space and just going down another rabbit hole. But it's really an exciting place to be, and I can tell you I wake up far more excited to go to work now than I did when I had to get on the tube and go to work in Piccadilly Circus for an advertising agency, or for that matter, stand in front of a class and talk about the present perfect.
Yeah, exactly, mate. So what's that now, like 13 years or so you've been living life more on your terms. This is what's very interesting for people listening, because many people are stuck on that hamster wheel. Many people just think, oh, it's okay, I'm just going to keep going, I'll stack as many sats as I can and I'll be free one day. Whereas like you just stepped off it well before you found Bitcoin. So like what's stopping someone now that has stacked some Bitcoin? And what would you say when you were coming to that decision, was there a snapping moment, and did you have a grand plan, or was it just like, right, let's just throw some shit against the wall and see what happens, and you end up becoming an English teacher by default because you could speak English natively? I just want to try and give people that are listening, that are going through these same thought processes, like the validation, really, that you're not going to go bankrupt, dude. Like you're going to be just fine. You just got to take that first step.
Great question. Was there a breaking point? I suppose the first thing I started to write actually was a sarcastic blog about working in advertising. I was sort of so cheesed off with doing this. I was just sitting there all day, like writing about how shit it was. And it was, of course, read by no one, and I couldn't even really tell anyone because otherwise it wouldn't be secret. What was your question? What's the sort of right time to do it, or how did I take the plunge? I think there's never a right time, and it's always too early. You could always do more planning and have more of a buffer zone. I mean, now I live in Spain and meet a lot of foreigners, and they're always, oh, I'd love to travel, or I just need a few more, just need this and that, and then I'll quit, then I'll do this. And I think you've been saying that for 4 years or 5 years. It's about having the confidence in yourself, like the skills that you have, the soft skills that you have, are valuable. I think a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm a chartered accountant, so that's all I can do. Or, I've got this qualification, or I'm a coder, and the market's crap right now, so I can't take risk. You can if you believe that you're capable of learning, of innovating, of changing with the rapidly changing market, of seeing opportunities, of networking, and like meeting people who will see something good in you. And I think if you have belief that you can create value, then you'll go for it. And there's never going to be a point where you say, yeah, this is the right time. I was on a call with someone just today who's saying, "Oh, come to this festival, and you could launch this." And I thought, oh, if only it was 3 months, 4 months later. But thinking about it, you have to take the plunge, because you're never going to be perfectly ready. Things are never going to come. I understand it can be hard for people, especially if they have mortgages, families. But really, what's hardest is the people who are trying to hold you back. Those colleagues and family members who say, "Oh no, don't take a risk. Just stay safe. Just I know things are getting worse, but just stay in the system, because it could be very bad. You could be risking a lot more." I think if you can really have a conversation with yourself and say, do I trust myself to create value? If you do, go for it, take the plunge. And I'm not saying it will be easy. There will be plenty of failures on the route to getting where you want to be. But that's my perspective. And I'd also add, like, final thing, if you're a creative person like me, that's also a driver. It's like, I want to write a book that if even just one person reads it, that would mean a lot to me. I think there's a lot of focus on reach, like financial independence, retire early, and just stop work. Well, for me, like, work is life. It doesn't have to be a job, but the value that you put, that you assign to your own labor, and the time you put into things is what you should enjoy. So try and do work which rewards you, and if you do that, then you're probably more likely to push the button and say, "I'm going to cancel this job which is not fulfilling, or this lifestyle that's not fulfilling."
And I think another thing that trips people up as well is people ask me all the time, "Oh, what made you live in France? Why are you now in the UK? Why did you decide to stop traveling?" Like, you had these things and you gave them up. So when they're looking around and they're thinking, right, okay, yes, I want to leave my job, I want to go live somewhere else, it's also overwhelming, because it's the paradox of choice at that point. And then you find yourself 2 years down the line still running on the same hamster wheel, because you just didn't go. And I try and explain to people that we didn't make a conscious decision to live in France. That just happened, and 8 years went by and it unhappened, and now we're on to the next adventure. So how do you think about it? Because there is no utopia. There's no gleaming citadel waiting for you with gates wide open. Just prove you're a Bitcoiner and you're welcome. And the rivers run clean and the sun shines all day long, and the steak is free. Like, forget it. It's not out there. And you'd be holding yourself back if you're waiting for the utopia to appear.
Yeah, for sure. I think the title of your book, Choose Life, is so apt here, because that's what people should be choosing. They shouldn't be choosing a finite concept like happiness or riches, which are shilled by the media to get clicks and to get you to pay attention to it. There's so many people who are struggling day to day, and they're just thinking, "Oh, once I get rich, or once I'm happy, I can just stay there and everything will be nice. I won't have to do any work. But, imagine you are a billionaire living on a private island. After a year, you wake up on that private island, you'd be like, you've got used to it. You're not motivated to do things. So happiness is an ever-changing concept, just as wealth and riches are, and any other concept which I think people go towards. And there's that misnomer of like, oh well, you moved to that place and you were happy, so why didn't you just do that forever? So I don't think they're kind of happily ever after. I like sad endings and difficult short stories and stories. So maybe I'm not the right guy to ask about happy endings, but I certainly believe like you have to do the work of talking to yourself and coming to terms with like what makes you happy on a daily basis, and whatever kind of work that is that makes you happy, whether it's raising children, running a charity, being a CEO for a super stressful hedge fund, like whatever it is, go towards that and keep trying to do it. I don't think there's any what is the meaning of life? I don't think that's a great question to ask, because there's never going to be an answer.
So where have you found yourself traveling?
So I left London and moved to Argentina, to Buenos Aires for a year. That was great. I probably would have stayed there, but I had a ticket home and not much money, so I went back to the UK, and then I found a job in Mexico, in southern Mexico, where I stayed for 3 years. I found that really great place, like great people, very rewarding job, and very interesting place to travel. And then moved to Spain and took a job there because
You've just muted again for some reason. Maybe you have a loose connection somewhere.
All right, can you hear me again?
Yep. So you moved to Spain.
I think it might just be the internet cutting out or something. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, after Mexico, I went to Spain. I've lived in a few different places in Spain, and then during I sort of rage quit my teaching job in 2018, and I did more traveling in Asia and a few other places. And during COVID, actually came back to Spain to live in the Canary Islands, because it was an available option, and I'd started to work online, work for myself, so that became more of a reality. There's good things about all of those places, and I miss living in all of them.
A friend of mine was just in the Canaries, and he was blown away he found a place, Ubuntu Bitcoin project, where they all accept Bitcoin, and it's incredible guys that are running it. Do you know of it, or they could be on a different island?
No, I mean, I'm perennially saying there are hardly any Bitcoiners in the Canaries, and there's very little culture. So I'd be interested to know where it is.
Okay, well, on Twitter, I've got Ender Nakamoto, 21st Century Pirate. That was the guy he sent me through to have a chat with. He was staying in, no, it was a hostel, not a hotel, excuse me. And even paid airport transfers. So it's happening. It's happening somewhere.
Amazing.
Ubuntu Bitcoin project.
I'll have to check it out and see which island it's on. But if it is on the one where I live, that would be amazing. I'm gonna.
And again, this sounds idyllic to most people living in the UK, right? Oh, what? He lives on the Canary Islands? Like, this is amazing. Where the sun, sea, and sand, and good food, and better weather. What's stopping someone do that just for a month or two, just to go and try it out?
I think as somebody who's traveled, and I've sort of been away from friends, family, and people who I grew up with, there's the easy way to talk about it is, and I'm sure you've had this before, people say, you're so lucky. Oh, you're so lucky. You live in the Canaries. You got a house in France. Oh, you're so lucky. Oh, I wish I could do that. But what they don't want to do is give up something, is take a hard decision. Because, like you say, you could do it tomorrow. Even if you've got kids in school, you've got a mortgage, you've got a job, you could, if you really wanted, do it tomorrow, pack a bag, go somewhere, set up shop somewhere else, start a new life. But you have these blocks with fear, and mostly that fear is of losing something. We're very risk averse people, right? We prefer to sort of keep what we've got rather than gamble a lot of the time. But especially with somewhere like Canaries, and especially if you're a European citizen as well, then you can just hop on a plane, say, let's try it out for a month. You know, if I'm in Canary Islands, if I'm, Irish, I could, go to Greece and check that out. And that's a great way to do it. Is try it out for a little bit of time and see that it can be a reality.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I hope we're inspiring a few people to start thinking a little bit deeper about it and release themselves from the fiat hell. Because if anybody's interested, go back and listen to the episode I did with Jeff Booth, because we talked about Jeff coming to the realization, because in Madeira, he talked about this in his speech. He said he woke up one day and realized he was being a hypocrite. And I wanted to delve into that a little bit more. And he said, well, here I am, like I can see where this is all heading, and I want to be on this side of the fence. I want to be where Bitcoin is going and giving that all of my time. But yet here I am over in the other system, validating it, working for it, spending my time, spending my energy in it. And the way that my mind was tricking myself was like, yeah, well, I can just stack more sats if I stay here and I'm a member of this board, and then I can get this payout, and I've got this yada, yada, yada. And so once he realized the mind trick he was playing on himself, he couldn't unsee it. And he started completely moving away from the other system, to the point where now he has the fund and he's 100% focused on Bitcoin and investing in Bitcoin companies that are going to make it more accessible, better user experience, more decentralized, all the things, right? All the things we love. But he couldn't have done that before if he was just in the fiat system stacking his sats.
Yeah, he's so inspirational. I saw his talk in Madeira as well, and it's a tearjerker. He's someone who's really an inspiration because he comes from, or he built his own wealth. He's not someone who's like, hey, I want to get rich by, stacking Bitcoin and like going to Thailand and living for cheap and living it up. He doesn't have to be doing this, but he's chosen to devote his energy to something that he believes in. And I mean, there are thousands of other people we could mention who are just as selfless and inspiring in what they're doing. But yeah, it's not always a overnight realization or something that comes to you in a dream. I think to me, it's been like a slow process over 3 years maybe, and each day it sort of gets stronger. But yeah, I think everyone has to find that escape hatch however they can, whether it's quickly or slowly.
And this is so, again, the ethos is don't trust, verify. People looking around thinking, I've got to get out of this, I've got to do something different, I want to leave. It's very easy to pick up a book, a self-help book or something, and trust without verifying. But you are verification, as are we, as is Jeff, as are so many more people. And Nico himself, I mean, this is what he used to be, I think, construction quantity surveyor, something like that. He had an incredibly, very great job, paid well, long hours, obviously. Yeah, threw it all in, went traveling around the world, met his wife, found Bitcoin, ends up living in Madeira, which is becoming a Bitcoin hotspot thanks to the work of Andre and all the team at Free Madeira, and starting a publishing company. Like, he didn't have that on his bingo card when he took the first step out of the office that day. There's so much human capital that needs to be released from that leeching system that is going to just explode everything in Bitcoin, and whether that's musicians, artists, writers, YouTubers, filmmakers, you name it, it's coming. And selfishly, I want it tomorrow. So hurry the fuck up, people. Come on, let's go.
I think one way which people can be honest with themselves is how much are they role playing at work and how much is it really them deep inside. I mean, if I think of myself sitting in a chair writing PowerPoints to sell more outdoor advertising and making up these statistics so that the sales reps could, make £1 million sale, which I wouldn't see any of. I used to be in the office for 9-10 hours a day, a classic 9 to 5. I did max 2 hours of work. I was sitting in a chair. I'd go and eat my breakfast, get coffees, look busy, have the suit jacket on the back of the chair, and go off wandering around, speaking to people. I'd write my blog. I would troll through all the gig listings. I used to go on the ticket website and go from A to Z to snag all the best gig tickets. I would arrange gigs. I used to play in a band. I would use social media. So many things which were not valuable for the company that was paying me. Yeah, I was seen as, oh, he's someone who knows what he's doing, and he's valuable. He's going places. Because that system doesn't reward your actual work. As I said, I could sell £2 million worth of advertising, and people would say, "Well done, thanks very much. Here's a voucher for Selfridges, or here's a round of applause or something." I'd be like, why am I doing this? And now if I sell one book that might earn me €5 or something in my hand, it's a thrill. I'm like, I'm really keen to do that kind of work, even if it's not bringing me a huge reward, because it's for me. I'm working for me. I'm working on my goals. So that's the thing, really, is like, be honest with yourself. And if you're just like an avatar of yourself, sort of tapping away at numbers on a screen, not really producing value that you want to, what the hell are you doing? Like, follow what you want to do. Even if it means giving things up, you'll thank yourself later. You can't immediately keep the same level of comfort necessarily and follow your dream, but you will be happier following a dream than writing PowerPoints. That's all I can say.
You've reminded me, actually, there's a section in my book, Choose Life, that I write about taking off the mask. And that's what it felt like once I'd stepped away from that world. And I didn't realize it for many, many months, but my wife did. She's like, "God damn it, but you speak to people now, like strangers, like you actually, because you never used to." I'm like, wow, yeah, I guess it's the actual real me coming out. I don't have to wear a mask. I'm not completely shattered from like the week's events. I'm not hiding behind, the door at the weekend, so I don't have to go to be part of the coffee mornings or go to the kids' swimming lessons or any of that, because I just would avoid social interaction. So I was spent. I was done. I was over it. And you're wearing a mask because you had to wear a mask for your customer, for your colleague, for your boss, for the nights out with the lads, or for the golf weekends, or it was just exhausting, because it's a different character, like you said, different role play, and wearing the cosplay, whether that is a suit or whether that is whatever your job is, that it comes with a certain look or style, right? Otherwise, then you're seen as an outcast, and you'll never be able to network, and you just become morphed into whatever it is that blob that you're working for wants you to become or needs you to become. And then when you walk away from it all, man, that's when the real rediscovery starts happening. That's very, very powerful. And Bitcoin has played such a part in people's lives for that.
It's interesting that you mentioned the sort of mask and cosplay because not only is it becoming much more prevalent, like people are loving these dressing up for Halloween, and like I feel like it's become much more well practiced around the world. Asian culture as well. Here in the Canaries, they go crazy for Carnival. It's similar to Rio de Janeiro. It's a real big deal, and everyone's dressing up and doing these parades. And each year, I find myself being like, I really don't want to dress up. I don't want to put on a mask. I'm finally happy with being me, and I'm used to being the real me. It's down to being honest with yourself and exiting a system which you're being totally fake. And Bitcoiners are known for their forthright attitude and colorful language, maybe, but that's probably because it's more of a base version, like a real version of them, and it's something that I'm enjoying more, being myself, and I don't really want to dress up as Super Mario or something, walk along in a parade.
Do you find yourself in social interactions now, like perhaps not holding your tongue as much as you used to, or not being I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of Bitcoiners. You're going to sit around the table with your usual friend group, and like you're so far gone, like you're way down the rabbit hole. You see everything completely differently. But then you go out, so you've got the wife nudging you, like, "Don't be a dick tonight. Don't talk about politics. Don't bring up Bitcoin. Don't be that guy." And like it's so difficult not to. Yeah, I've given up. Honestly, I'm like you say. I'm not rude about anything, but I will. I will point out the opposite end of the argument to somebody that's just blathering today's headline. That
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before I would have probably just gone along with it and shrugged my shoulders and bitten my tongue, but now it's like, well, do you not think actually when you logically look at what you're being told that the opposite could be true? And if the opposite isn't true, that maybe there's a blurred line in the middle there, that something's being hidden from us. Are we being fed half truths about something? It's just, but now I can say that with confidence because, I don't have to pretend. That's the exhausting part, the pretending.
I think it depends on a couple of things. One is like the amount of knowledge you have. And I'd say, in terms of Bitcoin, until recently for me, I wasn't confident sort of jumping in and saying, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. Inflation is this, or, I still am not a hugely like vocal advocate where I'll jump in and start orange pilling people. And it also depends on how combative you are as well. I'm quite a mild-mannered English gentleman, so I probably wouldn't want to get into a lot of arguments. And I think another point is a lot of OG Bitcoiners can be quite abrasive, and they're frustrated after 10 years of people being blind to what they have seen so clearly. And I understand that. I think part of my remit, and especially with Bitcoin fiction, is to try and be empathetic and to try and bridge the gap between normies and Bitcoiners a little bit, because I think a lot of classic Bitcoiners say study Bitcoin. People say, why should I? And they say, oh, fuck you then, have fun staying poor. That's typical. I don't have time to explain this to you. And I think now we're moving into a new phase of adoption where we probably need different voices and different kinds of people in addition to those brilliant like pioneers to help people who don't see the world in the same way, and they're not technical, and they don't want to study things. They want entertainment, or they want to react to something which makes them feel rather than which makes them think and judge. So yeah, I think that's my perspective. Is I see why many Bitcoiners get frustrated, but I'm still sort of trying to be a bit more empathetic to.
I love it, mate.
To the normies.
That's the new wave. The new wave are far less jaded and more forgiving, and will be like you, creative in many different ways that has not come before, which is what we need all the time. More books, more education, more people. That's the number go up. All of that stuff. So yeah, glad you're one of us, mate, and pushing the needle forward with your work. So before we wrap it up, is there anything, any teasers you wanted to drop, or anything you wanted to share before I ask you the final question?
Just a plug for our new book, Financial Fallout. So that's 21futures.com. Check it out. You'll be able to see what the 21 Futures project is all about. You'll be able to watch the trailer for the book and find out what it is. You can probably imagine, right? It's 21 stories about financial fallout, lots of different exciting possibilities for financial dystopia. It's available now, so check out 21futures.com. And if you're a writer and you write fiction, we in the freedom space, we want to publish your work. So get in touch with us at 21futures.com.
Perfect, mate. Well done. All right. So if you had one last orange pill left to give to somebody, who would you give it to and why?
That's a great question.
And I'm not sure if you're thinking or if you've muted. Like there's
yeah, both.
No, there you are. There you are. Yeah.
I'm trying not to think of a stereotypical answer. Maybe is this selfish to say a younger version of me? I don't know, that version of me who was quitting his job in 2011 and wondering what it's all about. I mean, really, I would say anyone who is feeling overwhelmed by running faster and faster in a rat race and getting further behind. I've been there, and I know so many people who are there now, and it's just so exhausting. Especially if you're concerned about the people that you love around you as well. So yeah, very general answer. Mm-hmm. People in the rat race who are the one person who is really running fastest in the rat race and falling furthest behind.
Yeah, nice shout, mate. Well, we should give a plug as well for Consensus Network. So bitcoinbook.shop. And if you use /Bitten or the code Bitten at checkout, you get 10% discount on all of your purchases. So load up your basket and hand out books to friends and family, birthday presents, whatever. But support this is what sucks. If not you, then who? Like, stop buying your books off Amazon. Get across to Consensus. Stop listening to Apple podcasts or Spotify podcasts or Google podcasts when we have Fountain app. Perfectly good app doing great things, and supporting the creators out there in the parallel economy. Otherwise, we'll never get to wayfaring men, right? It won't happen. It's got to be us that support that. And like Jeff said, move from one system into one that is going to reward you in more ways than you could ever imagine.
100%. Creators and creative people should be getting on Nostr, using Bitcoin to pay and transfer value where they can, and receiving it that way too. Because when that money is going round and round, I think I heard Brian Timmint talking about this the other day, none of it is leaking away. 100% of that money is staying in that economy. And that means more people are seeing the benefit. And yeah, go use that code and buy lots of books at Bitcoin Book Talk Shop.
Love it. Well, thank you for coming on, Phil, and look forward to seeing you. Are you going to be shilling the books at any conferences in person that people should be looking out for?
I'll be at Cheat Code. I will be at Prague. I may be at more too.
Right. Okay. So BTC Prague, people, get your tickets. Again, use that code Bitten and you'll get that 10% off. So, all right, mate. Well, take care, and I will see you in person in Prague then.
Wonderful. All right. I'll see you there, Daniel. Thanks very much for having me.
Cheers, mate.